Today I'm going to show you how to use other ways to find parts for percents. So our goals of this video are to solve mathematical and real-world percent problems by determining just 1% of the whole amount and going from there. We're also going to solve mathematical and real-world percent problems using 10% of the whole and going from there. So before we get started, let's remember how to use the percent equation to solve percent problems. Remember that part equals percent times the whole amount. So it says what, that's a question mark, is equals, okay, so I don't know my part, 2.5%, I know that goes right here, of tells me to multiply 80 is my whole amount. Okay. Before I can multiply, however, I have to move my decimal over twice, and I need to put a 0 in that spot where there is nothing. So it's going to be 0.025 times 80. And I'm going to think of it as 80 times 25, and then at the end I'll move my decimal where it needs to go. So I'm just doing multiplication, I'm adding it all up, and I get 2,000, but in the problem there are 3 numbers behind a decimal point, so in my answer there should be 3 numbers behind my decimal point. So therefore the part is equal to 2. Okay? So a way that may make more sense to your brain is to find just, very simply, 1% of a number. And to do that, you multiply that number by 1%. So for example, to find 1% of 40, the percent equation is that part equals 1% times 40. And remember, we have to change that percentage to the decimal form, which means that decimal moves back 2 times. So 0.01 times 40, remember that's like doing 40 times 1, that's just 40. But there are 2 numbers behind the decimal, so in the answer there should be 2 numbers behind the decimal. Therefore, 1% of 40 is 0.4 or 0.40. Okay? If the percent you need to find is a multiple of 10, for example, if you're having to find maybe 30% or 40% or 60, some multiple of 10, you may prefer to first find the 10% and then multiply by the appropriate amount to get to there. So, for example, to find 30% of 8,000, we can first start by finding 10% of 8,000. Once we know that, we multiply by 3 because 30% is 3 times as big as 10%. So if I were to find 10% of 8,000, remember that's really 0.10, 2 numbers behind the decimal. So if I were to do 8,000 times 10, that's 80,000. Okay, but there should be 2 numbers behind my decimal point. Therefore, 10% of 8,000 is 800. Now, because I want 30%, not 10%, you could add that 3 times, so 800 plus 800 plus 800. But we know the easier way to do that is 800 times 3. 3 times 8 is 24, and we add those zeros in to our answer. Therefore, 30% of 8,000 is 2,400. So pause this video and see if you can find 1% first of 500, and then you scale that up to 63%. So first thing we're going to do, first step, is to find 1% of 500. So I'm going to be doing part equals 1% times 500. Remember that's really 0.01 times 500. 500 times 1 is 500, but there should be 2 numbers behind the decimal in my answer. Therefore, the part is equal to just 5. Okay? Now, if I really want 63%, that means I need 63 times as much as this right here, which we know is now 5. So I'm going to do 63 times 5. It's 15, carry, 30 plus 1, 31. Okay, therefore, 63% of 500 is or equals 315. So to just review, I found 1% of 500, which is 5, and I multiplied that by 63 because 63% is 63 times as much as 1%. Okay, our last practice problem. Again, I challenge you to try it on your own before watching the rest of the video. Ms. Smith made $2,880 by selling clothing she knitted. She put 30% of the amount she made, 30% of, remember that means to multiply, the amount she made, that's this, into her savings account. How much money did Miss Smith put into her savings account? So we could find 1%, but remember that when our percentage is a multiple of 10, we could just find 10%. So I'm going to find 10% of 2,880. So I'm doing that times 10. Remember, that means we just add a 0. But really, it's 0.10 is the decimal. So my answer should have 2 numbers behind the decimal. Therefore, 10% of 2,880 is 288. I'm now needing to figure out actually 30% of that. So I need to multiply this by 3. That's 24. 24 plus 2, and 6 plus 2. Okay, so what that means is Miss Smith put $864 into savings. That is my answer. So before you leave, make sure you feel comfortable solving mathematical and real-world percent problems by determining 1% of a whole and scaling up where you need to go, and also finding 10% of the whole and scaling up to wherever you need to go. Thanks for watching.